This video is going to complete some comments on David Coffin's list of principles for effective argumentation, beginning with principle number 17, and then move on to Paul Ratner's hierarchy of disagreement, which I'll have some comments on in just a moment. But let's continue with number 17. Principle for effective argumentation number 17 is the evidential wall. Avoid useless frustration of continuing to debate disputed evidence not immediately verifiable. The problem here we have is ignorance and also a problem with timing. It may be too soon to be clear about anything. Didn't we see this in recent news with the whole hands up, don't shoot incident regarding Michael Brown? What did occur on that particular time? How many protests have been based upon false information or incomplete information at the time? There's a reason why the legal process takes time and consideration and reconsideration to make sure we get our facts straight before we move forward. Number 18. Name the beast. Be familiar enough with the formal and informal fallacies to name and explain the error you believe your opponent to have made. This requires some study and some thought. The human experience has us so rapidly interested in just coming to a conclusion, and we don't want to do that. We want to think things through. Somebody says something like an after-school music program will never produce a school orchestra. Okay, good conclusion. Why? State it. List it out. Tell me that you've thought this one through with as much information as you could possibly give me. Number 19, legitimate means for escape. Leave room for legitimate dissent and further reflection. Very few arguments are immediately persuasive, and thus it is essential to conclude with your opponent feeling good enough about the discussion to give it further thought. It's always good to say, I'll have to give that one some more thought. Or if leaving with a sharp disagreement, make sure you end it with a smile. Hope you have a good week. Hope it goes well for you. If you think about something, well, let me know. Let me know what you got. Number 20, sources of explanation. After you've demonstrated by argument that your opponent's view is an error, try to show how or why your opponent has gone wrong and is thinking. How a person spends their money is their business. It is certainly not my business. But if it comes up where we're discussing expenditure, it might be fair to ask the question, once you have spent your savings on that vacation, do you realize you are one emergency away from insolvency? Well, I haven't thought about that. So I'm not telling the person directly, don't go on that expensive vacation. I am furthering the discussion, however, by trying to point out where a decision might have gone wrong. Okay, when all is said and done, the best arguments generally are discovered only in the aftermath and with review. This is why it's good to give it time, take notes, think things through. You will obviously think things tomorrow that you didn't think of today. And it's good to allow that process to take place. Well, let me move on here to the hierarchy of disagreement. Opening to say this. Disagreements are good. It has been said that if you and I agree on everything, one of us is unnecessary. Disagreements are good, but most of the time we are repulsed by a disagreement. We feel rejection, or we are willing to reject another because we disagree. Well, disagreements are good, but there's a hierarchy of disagreements because some are very base and negative and not constructive. Some are constructive. So I'd like to work up the ladder here from the least constructive disagreements to the most constructive disagreements. Please print out the list. It is part of this week's email, but I will include a couple of comments from what is just printed. And please jot down your own comments on these, as we'll have opportunity to share our thoughts. Number one, the worst kind of disagreement would be with name calling. It is belligerent, it is devaluing, it is labeling. Name calling is all emotion, it is cowardly, it is defeatist, there's nothing more to say, it's disparaging. Where do we find this? Well, we find this with road rage. Nothing good happens. There's a disagreement for sure. It is the lowest level. Moving up the ladder a rung would be an ad hominem attack, which we have talked about in our class before. It's so easy to make a comment about the person making the statement than the statement itself. We don't want to do that. It is devaluing. It is not respectful. Keep our comment on the person, on the situation, on the context without our generalizations. Number three, responding in tone. Ooh, this is a disagreement without even saying anything. Just by the way I say what I say, or the body language that is included with what I say. Man, I don't get this, but it happens, and we all pick it up. But why would we ever want to communicate this? I know sometimes I intentionally communicate my dislike or distress. My wife picks it up. She's talking, and I'm rubbing my eyes, or I'm looking away, and she picks it up that I'm responding even though I think I'm being quiet. Next one up, contradiction. Stating the opposite without supportive evidence. That's the contradiction. This still is not in the level of discussion. We haven't really gotten there yet. You say you like Shaw's. I like Stop and Shop. That hasn't gotten us anywhere. We're still learning. There's still very, very little substance in that communication from one to another. We need more detail. So now we're starting to get close to where we want to be with the next one. In fact, I only have 3 to go here. The next level up, number 3 from the top, counter argument. You may say something. I have a counter argument. Before I offer that, I need to know that it's safe and welcomed. If it's not safe, if it's not welcomed, if it is viewed as being aggressive or intrusive or belligerent, I can withhold my comments because I don't need to say anything. I can just be quiet. But if you are willing to hear a counter argument, it would be my pleasure to give one. But again, is it safe and do I have permission? The numbers say it's really a better value to buy your solar panels than to rent them. Now, if somebody had just rented them or had decided to rent them, they don't want to hear what I just said. Or maybe they do want to hear what I just said. Or maybe what I just said is not accurate, and we can discuss that. But I have a counter argument that I could offer. Don't open your irrevocable trust too soon. Again, that statement may not be welcomed at all if somebody has already done it and they don't want to hear they made a mistake. On the other hand, it might lead to a very profitable discussion. Here's why I would do it, or here's why I would not do it. I would like to think we're all interested in information such as that. Next up, refutation. Find a mistake. Obviously, you disagree. Well, find a mistake and refute it. Find a mistake and refute it. The global alarmist says that someday, if we're not careful, we're going to have a CO2 level like that of the planet Venus. No, that is not true. I can support that it's not true. Let's look at the data. Let's look at the results. Let's look at the causes of carbon dioxide. That is a very fair refutation in disagreement. That's a good one. Again, I have some friends, Christian friends, who believe in Noah's flood and that it occurred approximately 4,500 years ago. I am very quick to say there was no worldwide flood 4,500 years ago. I can support it. I can further that by saying your reading of the book of Genesis needs to be revisited. It is not rational. And we can discuss that. Now we're talking religion, so things can get a bit heated. They can, and I wish they wouldn't, because it's safe to talk about. I hope it's safe to talk about. But not all refutations are safe to talk about. And obviously, people, one of our politicians recently said, I'm not dealing with your set of facts, I'm dealing with my facts. And you know what Nikita Khrushchev said about his Bureau of Statistics in the Soviet Union? He says they can make bullets out of crap, only he didn't say crap. So I know there's statistics and there's data that needs to be counterbalanced, and I say bring it on. That's great. That's part of our discussion. Let's enjoy it. Finally, refuting the central point, and this is where we want to get. Explicitly, you've just said something, I want to refute what you just said. I can say my point is that Austria was the central reason for the beginning of World War I. And I can defend that with the generals, with the events, with the proposal that they gave to Serbia. You can come in with something else, but now we're talking about central facts that we are either going to be supporting or refuting. I can say all cars need 10,000-mile servicing. All right, let's talk about it. Let's defend it or dispute it. You show me a person who is willing to refute my central points, and I'll show you a person that I want to know. That's the person that I want to have discussions with. That's the kind of person that I seek out because they have processed their thoughts, they write it out, they remember it, they can defend it. Beautiful. That's why we like disagreement. Those of us who appreciate discussion appreciate disagreement. Or do they? We'll see you in class.